The prisoner who predicted his own fate, and got every detail right. If you think this story is dark now, wait till you see how it ends. Subscribe, like, and hold on tight, because this one gets colder with every sentence. The first time anyone heard Marcus Hale say it, they thought he was exaggerating. Maybe even trying to manipulate the system. But the tone in his voice that morning inside California's Hollow Creek Correctional Facility wasn't dramatic at all. It was flat, steady, almost resigned. "They're going to find me unresponsive," he said. "And it'll happen exactly the way I said." Those words were written in his grievance form a week earlier, scrawled in jagged handwriting across 4 sheets of paper. He complained of dizziness, chest pressure, blackouts, and a strange chemical smell seeping from the vents of his tier, something other inmates had mentioned but never documented. Marcus didn't just complain, he predicted events step by step. The date. The time window. Even the location in the unit where it would happen. Most inmates made noise just to get moved. But Marcus was different. Before Hollow Creek, he had filed reports in 2 other facilities, Rikers Island in New York and Cook County Jail in Chicago, warning of unsafe housing blocks and untreated medical conditions. Both times, he was transferred out only after another inmate collapsed under similar circumstances. When advocacy groups later reviewed the paperwork, they called Marcus alarmingly precise. Inside Hollow Creek, those patterns repeated quickly. His cellmate, an older man named Ruiz, said Marcus woke up every night gasping, gripping the edge of the metal bunk like he was drowning in invisible smoke. "You tell medical?" Ruiz asked one night. Marcus nodded. "They say my vitals look normal. But they're not in this unit at night. They don't hear what we hear." The rest of the block wasn't quiet either. Doors jammed without reason. Lights flickered during late-night lockdown. Even the officers complained about the burning chemical odor lingering in the hallway after cleaning cycles. But no formal incident reports mentioned it. Not yet. 3 days before the incident, Marcus did something that made several officers uneasy. He handed a sealed letter to a visiting legal advocate, a woman named Sarah Dalton, and asked her to open it only if something happened to him. She asked him why he looked shaken. He didn't blink. Because no one believes warnings until they become evidence. When she left the unit, she said Marcus watched her the whole way down the corridor, his hands shaking, his face pale, as if he already knew time was running out. By the 5th day, his symptoms worsened. He collapsed twice during morning count. Ruiz tried banging on the cell door, but the officer on duty insisted Marcus was faking it to avoid a disciplinary transfer. Ruiz later told investigators that Marcus whispered something chilling as he faded in and out of consciousness. "It's starting exactly like I said." The next morning, at 5:47 a.m., an alarm went off in C Block. Officers rushed toward the East Wing, expecting a fight or a medical code. But the hallway smelled sharper than usual, like the air had been burned. The lights buzzed overhead, flickering like a faulty signal. Marcus was found exactly where he predicted, near the base of the showers, slumped against the wall, barely breathing, his skin cold, his pupils unresponsive. A folded piece of paper was clutched tightly in his fist. Ruiz swore it wasn't there a few minutes earlier. When the officers pried it open, the message inside wasn't frantic or desperate. It was calm. The last line read, "If you're reading this, then the clock moved exactly the way I said it would." And underneath it, a second sentence, one that would send the entire facility into a spiral of suspicion. "What happens next will prove I was never wrong." The investigation tightens. The moment Marcus Hale was lifted onto the stretcher, everything inside Hollow Creek shifted. Officers who once dismissed him now watched each other with uneasy glances. Medical staff whispered in corners. Supervisors walked faster, speaking quieter. The incident wasn't just unexpected, it was too precise, too aligned with the warnings he had written down. Detective Lena Marrow of the County Oversight Unit arrived before sunrise. She was sharp, composed, a former homicide investigator who had spent years untangling what she called slow-motion tragedies. The kind that don't happen in a flash but unfold through negligence, missed signs, and ignored pleas. Her first stop was C Block. The air still carried that faint chemical edge. Officers insisted it was disinfectant residue. Lena didn't argue, but her eyes lingered on the intake vents along the ceiling. Ruiz stood outside the infirmary door, pacing. When Lena approached, he spoke before she could ask a question. "He told you this was going to happen, right?" "He told everyone." Lena nodded. "Tell me exactly what he said." Ruiz described the blackouts, the burning smell at night, the flickering lights, the sleepless panic that crept across the tier like fog. But the real turning point, he said, came the night Marcus woke up trembling so violently the bunk rattled. He said it again, that they'd find him unresponsive in the East Wing showers. He even said the time, between 5:30 and 6 a.m. Like he saw it before it happened. Lena wrote everything down. When she asked if Marcus had any enemies, Ruiz shook his head. Not enemies. But he had a way of making people uncomfortable. He noticed things. He questioned things. Some officers didn't like that. Lena knew the pattern too well. Inmates who raised red flags were often labeled troublemakers, complainers, manipulators. Until the day something proved them right. She went next to the administrative wing. Captain Jorvins, a stiff man with irritated eyes, greeted her reluctantly. "Marcus Hale's medical file," she said. He hesitated. His vitals were normal. "We had no reason to believe." "Captain," she interrupted, "I asked for the file." He handed it over. Lena flipped through pages of checkboxes. No acute distress. Symptoms unverified. Behavioral exaggeration suspected. Not a single diagnostic test beyond blood pressure and a stethoscope check. "Did anyone investigate the chemical smell inmates reported?" she asked. Jorvin's jaw tightened. "Ms. Marrow, inmates say all sorts of things. That's not an answer." He sighed. "Maintenance didn't find anything. End of story." But Lena could see clearly, corners had been cut. Reports had been dismissed. And Marcus had known it. Later that afternoon, Sarah Dalton, the legal advocate Marcus had entrusted with the sealed letter, arrived at the facility. She looked shaken as she held out the envelope. "He told me not to open it unless something happened." I didn't want to believe him. Lena opened it carefully. Inside were 2 pages, written calmly, with unnerving precision. Marcus described the same symptoms he'd reported to staff. But he also wrote about something else, a scheduled transfer to a disciplinary unit he insisted would trap him in the worst air quality on the block. That transfer had been approved the day before his collapse. He wrote, "The problem isn't the transfer. It's what happens when they put me in a wing they know has issues." Sarah swallowed hard. "Is he saying someone did this intentionally?" Lena closed the folder slowly. "He's saying someone knew. And someone ignored him." But the most disturbing part wasn't in the letter. It came from a maintenance supervisor Lena questioned later, a man whose hands shook as he spoke. "There was a report," he whispered, "about a malfunction in the ventilation. It was filed 3 days ago. Someone deleted it." "Who?" Lena asked. He stared at the floor, voice cracking. "Someone with access to the system. Someone with a reason to hide what was coming." The case had just shifted from a medical emergency to something far darker. The fate he saw coming. Detective Lena Marrow had handled grim cases before, but nothing felt quite like this. Nothing felt this predicted. Every step she took seemed to follow a path Marcus Hale had already mapped out, warnings ignored, patterns repeated, systems looking the other way until it was too late. But the deleted maintenance report changed everything. It pulled the investigation out of the fog and into sharper territory: sabotage, falsified records, concealed hazards. Someone inside Hollow Creek had tampered with evidence, and Lena knew cover-ups rarely happened for no reason. She requested access logs for the facility's work order system. Hours passed while IT combed through entries, restoring files supervisors assumed were gone forever. When the results came in, Lena froze. The deleted report had been removed by an account belonging to Officer Daniel Mercer, a correctional officer with a clean record, minimal complaints, and a reputation for following orders without question. When Mercer entered the interview room, he looked calm. Too calm. "You deleted the report," Lena said plainly. He didn't deny it. "I did what I was told." "Told by who?" Mercer swallowed, his eyes shifting to the observation window. "By people who expect loyalty." Lena leaned in. "Did you know Marcus Hale was sick?" Mercer exhaled sharply. "They all are. You know that. This place is a pressure cooker. Everyone's breathing recycled air and stress." "But only one inmate predicted his collapse down to the minute," she said. "And you deleted the one report that could have prevented it." Mercer's jaw tightened. "You're looking at me like I'm the villain." "I'm not." "Then who is?" He finally met her eyes. "The ones who didn't want an investigation. The ones who said the malfunction was not worth the budget. The ones who said admitting the problem would make the facility look bad." Lena had seen that kind of quiet negligence before, not violent, not explosive, but dangerous enough to let disaster unfold. But the case wasn't over. As Marcus lay sedated in the hospital wing, barely stable, Lena returned to C Block to examine the vents firsthand. Maintenance escorted her into the crawlspace above the unit. Dust coated the narrow tunnel. The air felt heavier, even with her respirator on. Then she saw it, a ruptured chemical filtration panel, its edges corroded, leaking residue into the airflow system. The malfunction matched the deleted report exactly. And the timeline matched Marcus's predictions perfectly. Back in her office, Lena compiled her findings, ignored grievances, medical oversight failures, an attempted disciplinary transfer into a hazardous unit, and a deliberate attempt to erase the one document that linked it all. She wrote the final line of her report carefully. Marcus Hale did not foresee the future. He simply watched it unfold in slow motion, while those responsible turned away. But the story didn't end with paperwork. 2 weeks later, Marcus finally regained consciousness. Sarah Dalton sat beside him. His first words were quiet, slow. "Did it happen?" he whispered. She nodded. "Just like you warned." He closed his eyes, breathing shakily. "Then they'll try to shift the blame." Sarah squeezed his hand. "Detective Marrow won't let that happen." But as calm as her voice was, the look Marcus gave her was filled with something heavier than fear. "They already moved someone," he said. "I heard the officers whispering before I blacked out." "Moved who?" she asked. Marcus stared at the ceiling. "The man from the maintenance team. The one who filed the report they deleted." A chill ran through her. "Where did they move him?" Marcus turned his head slowly, eyes sharp despite his exhaustion. "To the same disciplinary wing they tried to send me to. The one with the bad ventilation. They said he needed to assist with repairs." Sarah froze. "Marcus, why would they do that?" He exhaled, voice trembling. "Because now he knows the truth too. And in this place, truth is dangerous." 3 days later, as Lena prepared to file for external oversight intervention, an emergency call crackled over her radio. Another collapse. Same unit. Same symptoms. This time, it wasn't an inmate. It was the maintenance supervisor. And taped inside his pocket was a folded note. Just 6 words. "He wasn't wrong. None of us are." Lena closed her eyes, realizing Marcus's prediction wasn't a single event. It was a cycle, one that hadn't stopped yet. And in her report's final line, she added one more sentence for the public record. "If you think this case is over, you're not ready for what comes next."